Hey everyone, so recently I got asked the question, what do you do or how do you find a deceased and how do you work with an heir of a deceased in unclaimed money or surplus funds? Great question. Let's go ahead and dive into that and look at that today. And I'm going to give you just 3 simple steps that's going to help you in your business when working with someone who's deceased. First of all, you have to know your state protocols or your county or wherever you're working. If it's a mortgage, if it's a tax overage, or if it's a state. California probably has the most easiest because they have a handbook right on their site, and you can go down the handbook and it tells you exactly what you need to do. You need to be familiar with these protocols. Generally, across the board, the first thing that they want to know is, was there a trust or a will? Trusts tend to be a lot easier than wills. And if there's a trust or will, who was the trustee or who was the executor of the will? If you submit that in with the death certificate, that's typically the easiest to do. So you're submitting the claim. You want to know this before you start calling someone and before you start. Because if you call someone and they say, oh, he's deceased, what's this about? And you say it and they say, hey, we want to go forward. I'm the executor, I'm the trustee, what do I need to do? And you don't know that protocol, you're going to look incompetent. So you want to know the protocol. There are times I get asked questions, and I just got asked a question the other day in the Facebook group. Someone's dealing with the deceased and the person died out of the country and there's not a death certificate. That's a first for me. I've never dealt with that before. So we're trying to work through that. But and in that case, if you get a question like that, what I always do is I come back with, I haven't quite dealt with that yet. Let me check into that. Here's the protocol for the United States. This is outside. This is a first for me. That's going to show that you're competent, that you've dealt with it before, and that you're looking into it, which is going to build your trust with your client. Now, if you haven't dealt with it before, you just say, you know what, the usual protocol is this. However, this is a little different. Let me look into that and I'll get the answer for you. All the way across the board, they're going to want to know, they're going to want to see the death certificate and a copy of the will or a copy of the trust. Everyone's going to ask for that. Now, some places get a little different because even though there might be an outside person who's executor or trustee, they're going to want to know if they had kids, they're going to want to know how many kids they had, and they're going to want to see this data all written down. So be ready for that too. Just like California has a table of heirship, and you can fill out the table of heirship, but if you have a will, trust, and a death certificate in some places, you don't even need that table of heirship. You can just submit that in, but you need to know what you're going to need. Let me first of all ask, is there a will? And who's the trustee of the will? And if the person says that they're not trustee or executor of the will, you want to say, okay, this is great. I'm going to need to get in contact with that person. Could you get me in contact with them? And you need to deal with them directly. You don't want to be dealing with a third party. The second one that you want to have down is your script. When you're talking to the person on the phone, you want to know what you're going to say. If you know the person's deceased, which a lot of times, like I get a red deceased flag in my skip tracing. So when I call someone and I ask for, I'll just say, hey, I'm trying to reach, like I'm calling his son. I'll say, hi, this is David. I'm trying to reach John. John, I'm trying to reach a relative of John Doe. Would you be able to get me in touch with someone regarding an account he had? Generally, then you're going to have someone say, okay, what's this about? You know you're talking to the son, and then I go in with the intro. I'm calling about the property on 123 Main Street. I'm calling about the dormant account. I'm calling about this. I was assigned this file. Are you familiar with this? Just recently, I dealt with a son, and him and I were talking. I called him about a IRA account that he said had a retirement account, and the son was super great. We called and I did exactly that. I said, this is David Church trying to reach Sean. His name was Sean. He said, yeah, this is Sean. I said, Sean, are you familiar with the account that your dad had at this PO box? So we had played a little phone tag, and he said, no. He said, I worked on a couple accounts. I knew nothing about that. So I said, your dad has $15,000. He's got this, and I went ahead and I educated him on what he had, and that's the first part of the call, is just educating them on what they had. And then I said, by the way, if you want to work with us, I can go ahead and get you the documentation over. Here's what I'll need. And then you go over that list that I was talking about, what you need. I need a copy of the death certificate. I need a table of heirship. I need anything he had. If he was married, they're going to want to, someplace they're going to want to see a copy of his marriage and her death certificate or his death certificate. What we do is we send them a list of a bullet point of, we need your driver's license, your social security card, your birth certificate, your death certificate. Now, a lot of people say, well, people won't turn that over. I occasionally deal with that, and there are workarounds on that. And a workaround might be letting them send that documentation directly to themselves, to the county or the state. You get everything started, and then you let them know what they need to do. There's other workarounds on that too. You could, once you get it submitted, then ask them if they'll come in. They'll let you go ahead and work with them. Or you can have them sign a service agreement, which allows you to retrieve that information. The third step is you want your plan of action and you want to be able to communicate that with your script. So my plan of action would be, I'm dealing with someone who's deceased, I'm dealing with the son, daughter, I give them all the information that they need. They're like, hey David, yeah, great, let's go to move forward. I'm gonna schedule the notary, I'm gonna go ahead and schedule the documentation, and I'm gonna let them know what's needed. So not only have I let them know what they need in the script now I'm gonna go ahead and have my action plan. Is it better to have the notary call you this afternoon or tomorrow morning? They're gonna schedule, if you have these documentations, and have a sense of urgency. Say, by the way, they are really backed up right now. The sooner we get this in, the better. I'm seeing some people come in and some people leaving, and I think I can get this processed immediately as long as I get the paperwork immediately. That's not a lie, because that's happening in every county or state. They're backed up and they've got a ton of paperwork. If you say, hey, get it to me, we need to, I'll go ahead and I'll work it. They're gonna say, okay, I have all the time in the world, and they're just gonna table it. But if you have a sense of urgency, like, okay, so we're gonna get the notary on this, I need this documentation. The second we receive this, I'm gonna go ahead and, I always use the phrase, kick them in the butt. I'm gonna go ahead and kick them in the butt, get your file going, make sure we get this process immediately and get it through. And now it's the best time to make that happen. Again, that's a sense of urgency. There are times I do work a lot of older leads, and like there was one time where I was working a lead and I just told the guy, hey, you have 2 weeks, which he did. I said, you have 2 weeks before these funds disappear and they're gonna get escheated, and I don't wanna see that happen. If you get this to me within 2 weeks, boom, we'll get it done. And boom, I had it in 2 weeks. You don't want to make things up that aren't true, because if they go and they look you up, I wouldn't go with someone who lied with me, so why should they? Hey everyone, I hope this helps. I will see you on the next video next week. Have a great weekend.